Erica Taylor. Erica is the Director of Content for Professional Remodeler, which is a really great resource for the remodeling industry. It gives all the latest news, trends, best practices, things like that relating to the remodeling industry. So Erica is the director of all the content for that, for the magazine, website, events, things like that. So we're really grateful and happy to have Erica here with us today. Welcome, Erica.
Hi there, thank you. It's good to be here. Awesome. I'm really excited about doing this panel. I think that the topic is incredibly timely. I think that the panelists are interesting and innovative and have a lot to say that I'm hoping will help you in your business. And I love conversations about remodeling. So prior to my work with Pro Remodeler, I was with Hanley Wood for a number of years, working on their pool division. So I worked with a lot of pool builders and people who sold pool equipment. So I'm kind of familiar with, have a deep background in small businesses, especially in the construction space in a lot of different areas of the country. So I'm excited. I want to hear the introductions for our other panelists. And who wants to go first?
Fantastic. Yeah, I figured we could go around, have everyone do a quick introduction. Vicki, would you like to kick us off today?
Oh, sure. So I'm Vicki Kyger. I'm the marketing director for Exterior Source. We've been in business since 1993. We're located in Virginia with 2 offices, one in Richmond and one in Chesapeake. We also serve the Roanoke area, so most of Virginia. So we have the Leaf Guard gutter franchise, and we install gutters, siding, roofing, windows, doors, and decks.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Vicki. How about Greta? Would you like to introduce next?
Yeah, sure. My name is Greta Byrami. I'm the owner and founder of Golden Group Roofing. We're a roofing company focusing on residential roofing, located in Westboro, Massachusetts. I started this company at 21 years old, right out of college, and that was just in 2012.
Wow, that's awesome. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. And welcome, Savannah.
Hi. I'm Savannah Forrester. I am the marketing and IT strategist for Minnesota Ruskell. We're a second-generation family-owned company, been in business since 1955. We work on windows, siding, bathroom doors. Our most recent addition is kitchen restyling.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. And we do have Matt McLeod with us as well. Matt, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Fantastic. Yeah, I can. Go ahead and
can you guys see me? Just hear me. Oh, there you are. You're my
yes, there we go. Okay, perfect. All right, fantastic. Matt, welcome. Would you like to give a quick introduction to yourself and Carvertise?
Absolutely. Well, pleasure to be here and sitting alongside such brilliant panelists. My name is Mac. I'm from Wilmington, Delaware, and I'm the founder of a company called Carvertise. We are a media company that specializes in advertising on rideshare vehicles like Ubers, Lyfts, Grubhub, and DoorDashes. We're in all 50 markets across the country, although we're headquartered here in Wilmington, Delaware. And what we specifically specialize in the home improvement industry is by helping our clients move into new markets that they're trying to expand into, and creating brand awareness in a way that looks like they are already servicing that market. So we have a little insight into how some of our partners are have been marketing throughout 2020 and what's in store into 2021. And I look forward to, sharing my thoughts and doing what we can.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. And now I'll turn it over to Erica to dig into the conversation. Thanks, all.
So before we get started with the conversation, I want to give a very special shout out to Greta, who is a professional after my own heart, because I really believe very strongly in the presence of women in the industry and increasing the number of women in the industry, specifically women business owners, and specifically young women business owners. And you're sort of checking all three boxes there, Greta. And I think it's just so awesome that you started your company so young, did it yourself, and did it as a woman in a very, very male-dominated industry. I just really have, hats off to you. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we should do like a whole side thing on it would take a different opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about what that experience has been like. Okay, I think that one of the big questions that are in people's minds right now is, how in the heck do I plan for 2021? 2020 is this crazy environment. It's been a wild ride. It's been, just when you thought that one thing was going on, like March, April, where the leads, just kind of fell off the edge of the cliff, boom, here comes May, June, and the leads are coming pouring back. And I think it's been very hard to plan and budget in that type of environment. And so I'm wondering, in 2020, I'm interested in asking sort of what people's revenues were, and if they're budgeting for 2021 to be down, flat, or up. And if so, what is the strategy behind that? What are people thinking about that? So whoever wants to go first, I'm really interested.
Well, I can go. So our revenue is, I checked the numbers last night, will be about 12,500,000 for 2020. That's up about 855,000, maybe more if we have a good next 2 weeks. So hopefully we end the year strong. Our budget for advertising, we were at 874,000. So we probably will be about 900,000 for 2021. The one thing that I'm looking to increase is, which we've already started the plans for, is pay-per-click advertising. That's where people are right now, so that's what we've been planning to do. We're heavy into television, we do infomercials, and we're heavy now into pay-per-click. We've gotten rid of our print and other things and made some adjustments. Somewhere in maybe 2021, we may add back a little bit of print, like a Valpak or Reach or something like that. But right now, we're set on the two main things. So we're looking I talked to our owner last night, and he thinks that we'll be better next year. He was pleased with where we were this year, all things considered. And we do exterior home improvements, so that has made a difference.
Interesting, thank you. So you're thinking you might do some direct mail, but you are going to be putting more of your resources into pay-per-click.
Yeah, they've far exceeded what I had expected, and I'll give a shout out to Socius. They've done a really good job helping us with that. So it's been a step up from what we were using previously. So really a big shout out to them.
Oh, awesome, that's great. Who else? Savannah or Greta? Do you want to talk a little bit? Okay, Savannah.
Do we want to talk gross numbers or net numbers?
Just whatever you want, just please indicate which one you're talking about.
Okay, so year to date, we are at 52 million in gross revenue. We are projecting for next year to be around a 78 million gross. Our budgeting, we always like to keep our budgeting at or below 10% cost of advertising. We do a variety of different things, from media, TV commercials, print advertising, lead aggregators. Trade shows have always been a really big thing for us in our state fair. With those being out, we're kind of looking into what other avenues we have to be able to build up a little bit more, including, digital advertising like Vicki was talking about as well.
I'm hearing predictions that, home shows obviously took more than just a beating. They were really taken off the map in 2020. And I'm hearing that trend will continue even after the pandemic is over. What are your views on that, Savannah? Do you think that home shows are going to come back?
So I'm in contact with a lot of different organizers right now. our trade shows are canceled through March, and that is our home show season. I have one vendor who's looking at doing kind of a virtual option, but I really see shows kind of falling off this next year. I've got one organizer who does probably 20 shows a year who's refunded all of our deposits and has canceled all of their events.
Erica, we have the same situation. We do a lot of home shows too, and we've missed 2 so far. We were at the very end of the spring show before everything shut down, but they're all planning. They've moved into March for this coming year, but I don't see them happening. I don't know if they'll move to April or May when it might be a little bit more advantageous, but we had to make up all those leads. It was a lot of lost leads.
I bet, especially because March was such a brutal month. I mean, that's when everything sort of hit the fan. So, Greta, do you want to talk a little bit about your thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're residential only, and we're only roofing residential. That's the only service we provide. And our sales are around 6.5 million, hoping to finish in the 6.7 million. We've always had a growth, a very consistent growth. We're anticipating that we're going to always continue between that 10 to 11% net growth in the coming 2021 year. I'll tell you a little bit how I've done the company. Since we launched and opened the doors, we've only been direct to consumer since 2015. So those numbers have only grown from 2015 to 2020. So that's 5 actual years that we've gotten to that number. And we've always done it with a social strategy. I didn't have any trade shows. I didn't have any budgeting for those type of stuff. I didn't have anybody else to rely on, seeing as I'm the first person in my generation to do this in my network of friends. So what I relied on was the internet. That's something that I was very savvy on. So I always relied on SEO, blog contenting, and just videography, PPC, obviously pay-per-clicks, ads, and just being really strategic about how we can layer the algorithms of Google and how we can manipulate them to really work in our favor, meaning putting a website up that just gets touched on at least 3 to 5 hours weekly. Instead of focusing on print, instead of focusing on other types of advertising, all I did with my team is we focused everything on the World Wide Web, and we treated the World Wide Web as we would any other campaign, something that we have to touch constantly throughout the week. And with that strategy always in mind, and always updating tags weekly and just checking everything, we've been able to maintain growth, and we've been able to make the phone continue to ring completely from our own website, other than relying on third-party sources, which is very popular in the residential realm. And I think it was one of the reasons why we were able to not really be hit negatively, but rather just completely ride out throughout COVID, because nothing changed on the way that we were getting clients. Everything was still constant.
So with that in mind, are you counting reviews then as a big source of leads as well? Is that part of your web strategy, or are you talking more like SEO and pay-per-click?
Reviews obviously is a big one, but I'm talking more on just content building. So for example, we get very strategic on building pages almost on a weekly basis. We call them portfolio pages, building very specific pages to target that particular town that we just did work on, by gathering the review that we did in that town, the photos that we did in that town, the case study that we did in that town, and maybe if we're lucky enough, maybe that homeowner wants to give us their photo or something. So we pretty much, once we have a client in that particular town, we like to exploit every avenue on a web platform to make sure that we are retargeting and tagging that client from every aspect. But the important thing to take away is it's coming always from our own website. So instead of going into other websites and creating this, which you can do, we're doing it all under our domain, our website. So essentially we're creating our own search engine within Google search engine.
And then it's self-perpetuating too, because the more it creates, the bigger presence it has, the more you can create off of it. So that's great. And now, Mac, I think you're in a slightly different position in the industry, since you're not actually providing, roofing or windows, but are you hearing anything out there? Is there any, you would have your finger on the pulse. I imagine you interact with a lot of these companies.
Yeah, a couple of our larger clients, Window Nation, Empire Today, they're having great years. So they're having an up year. Obviously it's spurred by a lot of people just wanting to renovate their homes, both exterior in the case of Window Nation and interior in the case of flooring. So yeah, I can speak a bit about the type of growth that they've experienced. As for our industry, because we are a marketing provider for many home services companies, we came into 2020 with grand goals, and then we had to kind of humble ourselves a little bit because people weren't driving for like 2 months, and then it slowly came back. So we got a nice little, punch in the face, I guess you could say, in 2020. But we came back well. Traffic counts came back up. We finded ways to pivot off of Uber and Lyft drivers onto more Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub drivers that were getting exposure in suburban and residential neighborhoods. We started putting an emphasis on targeted driving, where we incentivize the drivers to park and drive in very specific zip codes that are of interest to our clients. So just like all things, Erica, I mean, you find a way to make the best out of the situation that you're in. So this year it's gonna be relatively flat for us, which in the grand scheme of things, in the out-of-home industry that we would technically be categorized in, I'm proud of the team. I'm proud of what we were able to muster through this year, because others were not so lucky. Out-of-home got hit especially hard.
Oh, yeah. And then what are you thinking for 2021? What are your projections looking like?
Yeah, 2021, we're going to budget at 20% growth off of 2019. So we just got to skip year 2020.
Yeah, I just took that 20.
We're noticing this. Yeah, it was my birthday recently. I was like, this year doesn't even count. Like we're just skipping right. Like I didn't grow a year old this year. We just skip right over that. Yeah, I think, interestingly enough, to Savannah and Vicky's point, we do a lot with trade shows. So a lot of our really B2B clients, a lot of pharmaceutical companies use our services to get wrapped Ubers and Lyfts picking up and dropping off passengers at convention centers. So we incentivize them to work those arenas. That's an important product line of our business that is probably not going to come back into the fold until Q3 or Q4 at best. So there's certain segments that are still down, certain segments that are still up. Home services like Window Nation, they're on fire right now. Other industries that we work with, like legal, workers' comp, personal injury, they're on fire right now. So we are seeing kind of, a down here, a rise here. So yeah, it's still tough to tell. It's still tough to tell. We're not crafting the financial budget off anything that is too overhead heavy, but we're cautiously optimistic that it is going to be a much better year.
So with Window Nation being on fire is a really nice segue into my next topic, which is that I think it's kind of well known at this point that the home improvement industry, or exterior remodels specifically, just outperformed the rest of the residential remodeling industry fairly handily. And areas that are much softer are those big interior remodels, those kind of down to the studs. Let's take down all the walls and let's rethink the entire floor plan of the home. And that a lot of that share has gone to the roofing and windows and siding and doors category, and also some of the sort of the one-day baths, kitchens that are more like you're rejuvenating your kitchen, perhaps, rather than doing a whole sort of gut and rethinking everything in it. And I wonder what people are thinking for 2021. Are people projecting a readjustment in that ratio to where the design build interior remodels are going to get a larger share of market again? Or are people just thinking overall growth because of pent-up demand is going to grow that other segment of the industry, and you're going to still see the exterior replacement companies growing? What's on people's minds about that? Anybody?
Well, I'll go. In our market, we're in Virginia, and we're seeing the real estate market just explode. I was at a seminar recently where someone spoke from the Realtors Association that homes are getting 5 and 6 and 7 bids on them. If you ask $300,000 for a house, you're going to pay $320,000, and that's in Virginia. So I know other markets are even worse. I'm wondering if I think the exterior home improvement is going to continue. People are still at home. I think you're going to see a trend where people are going to be doing a hybrid. They're going to work from home and work in the office some. So you're still going to have the exterior home improvements. I think interior, one thing I'm wondering about, with homes so expensive, when you can finally afford to get into that home, are you going to have enough money to do the home improvements you want? I think that's an interesting question going forward. So I know in our market, a new home is so expensive because of wood. And then also, if you're having to bid on a home that's already existing, do you have enough money to do these improvements? So that should be something we should all think about going forward in 2021. It's going to come up, I feel certain.
Yeah, I would tend to agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. I would say that in the Boston market, it is a very hot real estate market. So as long as the interest rates continue to be down for those first-time home buyers, we're obviously going to see, an okay market. I think the people that are in exterior, the only reason that in our market, the Boston market, they're doing so well is because exterior has become something that home inspectors always look in the Boston market. It's something that's always coming up. I don't know how that plays out for other markets, but I know here, a roof, a siding, a ventilation, it's coming up always in the home inspection, which has actually helped us even without COVID. Even in a world pre-COVID, it has begun to help those in exterior quite a bit, because if roof is becoming part of the conversation in a selling or buying negotiation, it's always going to be something that either the buyer or the seller are going to want to immediately replace and take care of as pride of ownership. So I think that's helped us a lot. And with those higher price tags for homes and the fact that they have to do the roof because it came up in the inspection, I think that's been something that's helped those that are in exterior quite a bit. Even if we took COVID out of the equation, I think that's just been an overall win in the exterior side, because exterior, even 5 years ago, was something that was always left to, we'll do the roof when we can. And now it's like you have to do the roof to sell the property, or it's being recommended that you do the roof right when you buy the property. So I think
that makes complete sense. And it's nice that it's happening independently of COVID. One of the few things that is. So yeah. Savannah, do you have any thoughts that you want to add?
Yeah, I tend to think that, everything's going to kind of increase. I know in Minnesota, we've had some pretty strict regulations as far as COVID goes. So we had a shutdown for a while. Our company was blessed to be one of the many home improvement companies that were deemed as an essential business, because people need their windows replaced. They need their door fixed if something happens to it. So we took the time right at the beginning of the shutdown, and when everything kind of started, we pulled our reps out of the field, we brought them in-house, and we did some training with them on safe space presentations, practicing social distancing, wearing a mask, all that kind of stuff. So we never really saw a decrease in our interior projects. I think those increased just as dramatically as our exterior products did. It's just making sure that you are approaching the topic of the safe space and the social distancing and, proper cleanliness and stuff when you're in people's homes before you even go out to their homes, letting them know that your guys are going to be safe. They're going to, stay away from them. They're going to wear their masks. They're going to wear their gloves. put on booties if you request, and, just get that out of the way.
So what I was going to do next is kind of talk a little bit about the labor shortage and workplace culture. But in looking at the time, I wonder if we should jump ahead, talk a little bit about marketing in 2021, and then circle back to the labor shortage and workplace culture, depending on how much time we have. I also wanted to touch on the changing role of technology. Are we looking at sales calls that are going to be virtual in 2021? Are we looking at a hybrid between virtual and personal, or are we looking at personal reverting back to where it was in, say, 2019? Actually, let's start with that, and then we can segue into marketing. What are people sort of predicting for their sales calls for 2021?
I'll start on that one. We've started a virtual division in our company because we saw the need for it at the beginning of the pandemic. Through the data, we have found that only about 4% of our appointments are actually virtual appointments now. We saw a major decrease in it over the last couple months of people even wanting it. But then again, recently, there's been a little bit more of a spike. So I think it's coming back, but now that we're looking at, a vaccine being circulated, I really see that it fades out a little bit, but it never really goes away. There's always going to be those people where it's more convenient for them, they like it better, and it just fits in with their day-to-day better than having somebody come out to their home.
So you've had 96% of your sales calls are in home?
Correct, yes.
Wow, and does that include like an introductory meeting where it's, I don't know how, are you like a one-call close? How is your sales funnel?
We're typically a one-call close, but we schedule the appointment with the homeowner. We confirm with them a couple days ahead of time, make sure everybody is present, let them know we're trying to minimize our multiple visits. We go out to their home, we bring our iPad with us, do our presentation, clean it off if we need to pass it to the customer for whatever reason. Then we do our presentation. So like I said, though, about 4% of them we have had and customers will come into the showroom, or we will do a completely virtual presentation for them. And it's worked out well for those 4% of people, but the in-home closing has still been better for us.
That's really interesting because that's not what I'm hearing from other people. That's a very high percentage of in-person. I wonder if it's location. I'd be interested in hearing from Greta and Vicki what your numbers look like.
Yeah, I'll say that the majority of our people allow us to come into the home in person, but the actual appointment itself is not in person. I would say 100% of the people still want us to visit the home on our own. So that number has, at the beginning, I thought people were gonna rely on Eagle View Technologies or us, but no, they still want us to come to the property. So that's 100% of people. Now, the other, I would say where the actual interaction in person happens, that's in the split between 70% meeting us outside to continue that interaction, 30% telling us, I would feel more comfortable getting with you on a Zoom call later on today once you've prepared all the documentation that you want to present me. What's important to note is that they're all meeting step 3 and 4 of the sales presentation in an online setting, whether it's email, whether it's Zoom call, whether it's just, back and forth of just sharing on the drive things that we want them to see. That's always happening virtually through an exchange online. So that's part of and every deal is being sold online here in the Boston market anyway. It's not like we're going back to the home to sign a contract or like follow up. Every nurturing of the appointment is happening off their property. And I think that's just because of the way the attitude has been here in the Northeast market in terms of people welcoming people into their home. So even now with the snow, it makes it a little bit tougher because it is colder and we have to be outside, shivering and trying to convey or ask the key questions that we need to ask. But It's just now I think people enjoy it too. I think it's also it's important to note that switch the way roofing presentations are being done. I think if you've adapted to it in the last 6 months, you're in a great position, because I don't think a lot of people especially in the Massachusetts market, are going to go back to traditional selling of a roof. I think they enjoy the fact that.
Question: What do you think is going to happen, say in 2022? What do you think a roof sale is going to look like?
I've always been a big advocate of this, maybe because I'm younger in the roofing industry, and I think some of my predictions even before came true. I think it's time that people embrace this new beginning in roofing. This is the way people want to receive any type of project, because this is the way they're being sold other parts of their lifestyle, whether it's buying retail or whether it's booking a vacation, whatever the case may be. This is the way they're being educated. So I think it was time for the home remodeling industry to jump along and present the information the same exact way. People like to have information presented to them so they can make the best decision for themselves, not have us show them what the best decision is. That's not our job. Our job is to give them the information so they make the best decision for their home. And I think now, because we're not there sitting across them, they're able to absorb the information much better in those relaxed Zoom settings. You know, when I'm showing a screen or I'm sharing something or I'm telling them, look at the pictures, I think they enjoy it. And ultimately, we're probably seeing a higher conversion anyways, because people probably are processing information much more smoothly from the comfort of their own home without having us sitting there across the table waiting for the reaction or the pin to drop.
Thank you. And Vicki, what has your experience been like?
Well, we are finding that most everybody is allowing us to come into the home. We're doing very few virtual presentations, much less than we were. But I also feel that virtual is not going away. I think there'll be a hybrid. I think some people, because of a time crunch and then this new way of doing things, they just don't have the time for it. They're going to want us to continue to do virtual. I think a younger crowd particularly, they don't want you coming to their home, and they don't want to spend 2 hours with you or an hour with you or whatever amount of time it might be. So I think you're going to see maybe a combination, but we've had very few people tell us they did not want us to come to their home. When I think the things were the worst, we did a couple of things that were, I thought, kind of interesting. We bought all the salespeople a picnic table. It folds. Like, I just use that word, picnic table. It was a carry table, 6 foot. And when it was warm, which here in Virginia, we can do a good portion of the year, the customer sat on one side, the salesperson sat on the other. And then we've also done some presentations through the front door. If a customer had a glass door, again, we can do that because we're in Virginia, but we're not really having people ask us that. We've had very few people say that they don't want us to come in the home. Now, we practice everything we're supposed to do. We wear a mask. All of our salespeople wear a mask. They sanitize before they go in. They wash off the iPad, everything that everybody else has talked about. Leap software, or Leap, has helped us, less paper. We don't have to go back. We do one close call. So that's all of that has helped us. So I think that's what's going to be in 2021. You need to get used to virtual. Some form of it is going to happen, and you need to be on top of it if you're going to be ahead of the game, because it's not going to go away. It just might be different. So.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for one more topic, and I think we should touch on marketing. So if we are going to talk about marketing, I'm really interested in cost per lead. It feels to me like the lead flow is still going to be really strong in 2021. I mean, what I'm hearing everybody say is they're predicting a very robust 2021. And if that's the case, you know, where to look for extra revenue would be in profitability, which goes back to CPL. And I'm wondering what people are planning for that. Are people looking at lowering their costs in some way, or, you know, creating an environment where they're getting more yield per lead? And I think also Mac could probably talk to this as well. So whoever wants to jump in on that topic, I'd be interested.
Yeah, Erica, I was going to make just one comment to Vicki's point, which I really liked. Actually, Greta and Savannah, what they said too about in-home versus virtual. I think a lot of it, and this is just from the outside, being acquainted with the industry, but seeing how different people do it. I think a lot of it's going to depend upon the type of sales organization you're trying to build. So, a company like Power, they will never transition to virtual because their entire business is based off human to human persuasive tactics that can only be done in person. So they are going to resist any change to virtual for as long as humanly possible. A company like Window Nation, and everything at Power, right, is very, they don't do any branding. They're not, they just do lead generation from their partnerships, and then the lead generation goes over to sales, and then sales closes the deal once they're in the house. That is very different from the type of marketing and sales organization that a company like Empire today is, or Window Nation is, where they will run very large scale marketing campaigns. They will look to get their strategic advantage from creative messaging and negotiating large discounts on large media buys. And they hope to create demand. And then I think that's where you start getting into that gray area, Vicki, of, okay, now is it going to be virtual versus in person? I think a company that relies more upon lead generation to the masses, actually saying, hey, if you need new windows, call us, as opposed to walking in your house and then creating the demand, that's going to also tell the tale of how quickly certain companies will adopt virtual versus keep in person intact.
Great, really good points, really insightful. Thank you. Okay, so marketing, what are people looking at? Are you planning all of 2021 for marketing? That seems impossible. How are people handling it?
I can go next. Yeah. Oh, you can go ahead, Greta.
Okay. Now I was going to say, I'll speak for the residential contractors. We're not a Power, we're not a Window, we're not in none of these companies, right? We don't have the marketing dollars to create complete lead generating. So we have to be very resourceful. We have to be very smart on how we're going to do it, because we can blow, half of our budget in one commercial and get nothing out of it. I think what's important to note is how much are you willing to do, right? Because there's so much that a residential contractor can do that's free, right? There's so much they can do. They need to leverage that. Everybody sees somebody else's posts or captions or photography or videography and says how good it is, but then how much of that do they reflect in their own business, right? Like you can say what somebody else is doing. You could say, oh yeah, I wish I could do it too, but why aren't you doing it for yourself? So I think for the 2021 plan that I have with my team is that we try to look at everything and try to see, well, how much of this can we do on our own? What can we do on our own? And where does the money really need to go? If the money really needs to go to the pay-per-click and the SEO and just some local Facebook ads or whatnot, is that let's let those channels continue to generate leads for us, and let's do a lot of the stuff that we can do our own, right? I mean, canvassing is essentially the oldest art. That's free. I don't know how willing people are going to do, but that's a free one, right? Your sales team can walk. Your sales guys can create Instagram accounts and try to get business and create mini brands within a brand. I don't know how willing you want that. There's a double-edged sword, but it is something that will work. You as an owner, you can get on podcasts such as these, and you can get out of your comfort seat to create brand awareness for your company. These are all things you can do, and I think that's something that me and my team started to do back in September. We started to sit down and make a 2021 marketing plan, but we also tried to see how many things we could do ourselves that cost us nothing other than time. And of course, that's something we had to put. So that's something we worked as a team, and that's what I would say to the residential contractor listening. That's something you have to realize that you need to do for your business as well. Sit down, take a look at everything, and see where are things that you can do yourself, and where are things that are an absolute must to survive and be a front runner and make sure that people see your name when indeed they need your services.
That's excellent. I think that's, yeah, those are really, really good points. How about other folks? What are, we don't have a ton of time left, but I think that this is an important topic. What are people looking at for their marketing for 2021, and how are they trying to lower their costs?
So we're planning out our budget for the entire year. I like to go based off of historical data. I've excluded 2020 because it was just an anomaly. But looking at like the seasonality of the different products and the performance of the different, lead aggregators or media sources and print, like just seeing when everything performs with the different products, being able to see where we can put a couple more dollars into this source. If we have a 2% cost of advertising on this one, can we expand on that? Is there more room for growth there versus, something that costs like a 15%? So really just using that historical data, creating that plan, but being able to pivot as needed. Because, again, 2020 has shown us that it's going to throw us a curveball. We never know what's going to happen, but being able to make a change quickly is what's going to lead to everybody's success.
And
How
Erica,
often do you, oh, go on.
oh, Erica, I was going to say, I can give you our cost per lead. We went from $162 the cost per lead in 2019 to $104 this year because we did pivot to online. So there's some definite merit in doing that. We planned out the whole year as far as our television because we have a company that buys that for us, but it will adjust. Just like it did this year, we were impacted tremendously by political. So I don't expect that to happen next year. So that should be great. We should get all of our TV spots. So that'll be great. But we also, not only did we increase pay-per-click, we also increased our social media presence. Somebody else was doing that for me on a kind of a part-time basis, freelance, and now I'm doing all of it. So it has a little bit more personal connection. We promote anytime we go out for events, because we did do some events earlier in the year, and I actually did do one recently. So we try to do a combination of pay-per-click, social, television, and community events.
So Vicki, about how many hours a week do you put into social if you took that on yourself? That's a big lift.
Oh, it's been interesting. It's doubled my workload.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. And you do do you do Instagram or Facebook, Twitter? What do you do?
I do everything that there is. I do Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest. I do neglect Pinterest a little bit because I just don't have as much time for it.
Yeah.
But and we do boosted ads. I run ad campaigns. So I've learned all of that. I didn't really know too much about the whole I mean, I'd done a little bit of advertising, but not on Facebook to this extent. So it's been exciting.
I bet. And Mac, do you want to say a few words on this topic? And then I think we are going to kind of segue over to Kelly a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric, I think there's going to be three themes that you see in the home remodeling market industry in 2021. And the first one is a need to stay flexible. I think the level of uncertainty around Q1 and Q2 is going to force marketers to just look at how they had their marketing expenses allocated with a big grain of salt. I think the year is going to change quickly, and keeping a fluid line item around marketing is going to be important. I think that's a double-edged sword because there's going to be times where you have to play a little more conservatively, and there's also going to be more opportunity when the market shifts and you can strike harder, faster. So I think that that will always be the case, right? But I think in the first 2 quarters of 2021, you're going to see that accentuated. The second thing I think, and this is more universal, but I think the high demand in the home services industry, generally speaking, forces this, is for a practice like Greta's, who can't compete on the size of resources, you have to find your lane, you have to find your marketing niche, and you have to do it very, very well. So it was very encouraging to hear how Greta is creating her own little SEO and dominating the internet as opposed to competing where the big boys compete. She's playing it smart. And I think that all marketers will have to revisit how they're staying differentiated in the marketplace, and whether you're doing that by leads or whether you're doing that by branding, I think is also going to play an important component of it, of what that marketing mix is going to need to entail, and know how to play the game too. If you're branding and you're doing TV, radio, billboards, carvertise, whatever it may be, know that it's going to be harder to get direct attribution as it would through pay-per-click. So I think higher flexibility is what you're going to see, a higher need for flexibility. I think a more forced look at identifying what your niche is in your marketplace, how you're carving out your identity, and then moving forward off that is just going to be accentuated in 2021 in the home services industry.
Absolutely.
Wow. I feel that this conversation has been really interesting for a variety of reasons. I think that the topics are, cool and forward thinking and important, but I also really appreciate sort of the diversity of viewpoints, the geographic diversity, and the areas that people are touching on where are their areas of true competence. And I feel that it's been a wonderfully balanced panel in that respect. And I very much enjoyed this conversation. And I think it's time to turn things back over to Kelly. I wish, we had had the time to get to everything I wanted to discuss, but this has been great. And Kelly's got some great closing remarks and the giveaway and a couple of other things going on for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Erica. And thank you all so much. I know I definitely enjoyed listening in on that. That was a lot of great different viewpoints, a lot of really great takeaways, and just a very interesting conversation. So thank you all for your time and experience and knowledge and sharing that with us today. Much, much appreciated. So we do have a couple of questions rolling into our questions chat there, and I'd love to be able to get to one or two of them. So really quickly, I just want to, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So really quickly, I just want to have some final closing words from our sponsors. We'll do our giveaway of the Apple AirPods, and then I'd love to get to those one or two questions that we've got coming in here. So I did want to tell everyone about about these two special offers that we have from our sponsors today. The LEAP team is offering to buy you lunch. So we'd love the opportunity to learn more about your business and chat a little bit about your sales process. And to thank you for your time, we'd love to send you a DoorDash or Uber Eats gift card. We also have a great offer from Socius Marketing for a free design and rankings audit there. So let me go ahead and I will launch this poll quickly. And if you're interested in one or both of those options, please go ahead and check that off. Personally, I think for nothing else, these kinds of conversations are really, really helpful. Gives you a good self-audit of your business, the ability to talk about your business and maybe understand where some efficiencies might be, what you're really good at, where you want to hone in on things. I think it's very beneficial to talk to somebody who has these conversations on a daily basis with other contractors and can really share some valuable information that you might not already know, might not even be related to, LEAP or Socius, but you learn a little bit of something about your business and what might help shape, the direction of your marketing plan or some tips for streamlining your sales process that you might not have thought of before. So definitely encourage you to have those conversations, just kind of see what's out there and learn a little bit about that. So I'll leave that up just for another quick second while I go ahead and pull the winner of our AirPods here. Let me pull that. Okay, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and close out this poll. And the winner of our AirPods, I'm really bad at doing a drum roll, but you can imagine if I was. The winner of our AirPods today is Erica Isakov. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Congratulations, Erica. I will reach out to you via email after this webinar today just to confirm your mailing address and all that good stuff. So congratulations and thanks for hanging around with us today. It looks like we've got just a few minutes left in the session, so let me go ahead and pull up our questions panel here. I had a really good question coming in from Evan. So Evan is asking if anyone is partnering with grocery stores or other locations that people still are visiting in person, or potentially how about partnering with manufacturers of fast-growing products and home improvements like PVC trim. So I don't know if that's who would like to take a stab at that, if anyone's doing anything like that in their market.
I don't have anything to add to that, but Jay told me to say hi to you, Evan.
That's awesome. Cool. So no one working with grocery stores or anything like that, or other manufacturers?
No.
Well, thanks for writing in the question, Evan. Appreciate it. We have another question coming in from Castle. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. How do the design appointments go for your companies? What's the lowest number of samples that clients need to see in person to feel comfortable? So whether that's on the roofing side of things, whether you're showing samples and things like that in person, or potentially like, I know Savannah, you do some work on the kitchen and bathroom side as well.
Oh, we don't have a minimum number of samples. Typically, when we do our pricing, we categorize things into different tiers. So a customer will, have a general idea of where they're wanting to be at. So when we write up our contract, we then can do a follow-up with them here in the showroom, where they could, at that point, come in and take a look at all of the different options that they have available. They usually, though, like I said, have a really good idea of what they're looking for when we first get out there as far as colors, so we can show them, one or two, and they're usually pretty happy with that.
Well, I'll say we have our salesmen have a kit that they take depending upon what the product is. If it's gutters, they have a certain kit for that. If it's windows, they have the window kits. And if they've been able to find out ahead of time somewhat of a budget, that may dictate what they take, but they're pretty consistent in what they take to each sales call, depending upon the product.
Awesome, thanks. And Greta, do you have any kind of guidelines in terms of number of samples or things like that you're sharing?
No guidelines, but we do keep everything in the PDFs, on our iPads. So if a client wants to see one, we'll actually send it right over to them. And then if they want to see them in person, we can always get it to them. What I do love right now is that most people are not asking for as much samples like they used to just even 2-3 years ago. I think with the 3D models that you're able to send and you can color drop, it's become so much easier now for people to visualize it, and I think they enjoy it because it just makes for a faster selection process. So I have noticed that we don't order nearly as much single samples and samples in general as we once used to.
Awesome, great, thank you for that. I've got two more questions here. One coming in for Savannah. Savannah, is it a designer that goes out to visit the homeowner, and what do you provide them after that initial visit? Do they and what deposit do they put down?
So our sales reps, we have design consultant listed on their business cards. They are not, designers. That's not their job. Their job is to go out and to help the customer in purchasing their project. So if the customer does need any assistance with, specific designs and colors and what looks good together, we do have a couple staff in the office that they can come in with and sit down, have a conversation with, and they go through and do drawings for them and show them different color samples that work well. While we're out in the home, our sales reps are using, our leads. So we're leaving them with a contract. We have a few different financing options available. Some of them we do 10% down. If we do cash, we can either do a stage pay or we do a 50-50. So they'll put 50% down, 50% upon substantial completion. So it really just depends on what promotion we have going on or what's going to work best for the customer at that time.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Savannah. All right, we have one more question that I'd like to get to before we wrap today, if you guys have just a couple of seconds more. This question is coming in for Vicki. Casey would like to know, I know you said your cost per lead went down drastically this year, but did your cost per appointment also go down correspondingly?
Good question.
Yeah, that I did not check yesterday, so I can't answer that completely, but I know it did go down, but I don't know how much. I can't give an exact answer for it because I was focusing more on our marketing cost and our cost per lead information.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that, Vicki. All right. I know we are at the top of the hour. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So thank you again, Erica, Savannah, Vicki, Greta, Matt. Thank you so much for your time, for being here, and thank you everyone for joining us on this call. Really appreciate everyone taking your time out of the day. I know this is a really busy time of the year, and I hope you all found this to be helpful and interesting. So as y'all leave the webinar today, you'll see a short survey pop up. We'd love to get your feedback on today's presentation and hear about any topics that you might be interested in for future webinars. So if you could take a moment to fill that out, I'd much appreciate it. And I just want to say thanks again to everyone and wish everyone a very safe and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye. Thank you.